All righty. So what we're going to do here is we're going to review percentage problems. Um, and I'm giving you some formulas here, but we don't have to use all of these. Really, the only one you can use are these two on the top. And I'll review a little bit about that in a second. And this one on the bottom is where we want to increase or decrease by a percent, which is what I gave you on that mini assessment yesterday, I think problem number 5. Now, again, you don't have to get the correct answer by using this formula. If you have a way of understanding percentages using these or some other structured method, you can be successful. All right, but the basic percentage problem again comes from this, and I learned how to do this. All right, these two are really the same thing. This one on the right is just more practical. So to remind everybody a little bit about this, so we got those two formulas. And so this symbolically means the amount is equal to the percent of the total. That's what that means. And the percent here, the P, would be the decimal, which you get when you divide by 100. And that's what this is. This is the percent as its original purpose, a number per 100, and that's going to be the same as the ratio of the amount to the total. So when you have that kind of situation, it's often easier to just multiply the percent or divide by the percent. All right, so if I went ahead and changed this to A and T, this would become the percent decimal. So if this was 5 over 100, that's the same thing as 0.05. So we can use that to represent the variable. Notice when you cross multiply, you get that formula. The amount equals the percent of the total. So it's a lot easier to instead set up a problem like this to change that to 0.05 and then just multiply or divide. It's a lot easier, a lot quicker. And so that's what we're going to do as we go through these problems. Now, hopefully some of these are okay. There are a couple that are tricky. This is a review of something in middle school, but that doesn't mean anything because percentages are something some people will have trouble with. So right here in the first problem, we got 380 songs. So that's the total. And what's the amount of rock songs? What's the amount of country songs? What's the amount of jazz songs? What's the amount of pop songs? Okay, so they're giving you the percents. So all we have to do is multiply the percents to 380 to get the amounts. All right, so when you look at this first problem, how many songs are in the jazz? Okay, well, it says jazz is 9%. So we do 0.09 times 380. All right, now be careful because sometimes we'll make that 0.9. Okay, because what we do, we think, oh, okay, well, wait, it's 9%, which means that. Okay, so I need a decimal, so let me just put the decimal and then I'm good. Okay, keep in mind, that's why we have to understand what this means, because we will make that mistake and we won't know why that's a mistake because we don't understand what the percentage means. This means this fraction. And if you convert this fraction to a decimal, when you divide, the 9 is in the second place because it's out of 100. It's not out of 10. That means it's out of 10. That would mean this fraction. Okay, and you see it's these little subtle things that throw people, these little relationships between decimals, fractions, that throw people with this stuff. But this is how you would do that first section. Okay, so I just gave you the way to get the answer for the A question, and then you'll do the same thing with the B question, 0.21. Now with E, C, they don't give you the percent here. What should the sum of all these percentages equal? Anybody want to share that? What should the percentage sum of all these percentages equal?
100.
Right. So you can just add the 4 that you have and subtract from 100 to get what you're going to do for part C. Okay, and I'm just pausing. All right, now this next two problems are really the same. They're different aspects of the same problem. As you read this, you see, right, a whole lot of information. Okay, 4.5% commission on sales. That means this person is going to get a certain amount out of the sales. Okay, it's as part of what they make for their work when they. Okay, so this would be using this again. We're looking for the amount. We have the total sales, and they give you the percent. Okay, whereas over here, same thing, but now we want to know how much is she going to sell in order to earn 9,000. So that's the amount. That's the amount we're going to get out of the sales. What we don't know is the total sales. Okay, so how you set up these two problems is similar, but it's a little different because what you're given, the 9,000 means different things. Okay, when the 9,000 means the amount of sales, that's the total. So you multiply the percent. When the 9,000 is the amount, you're looking for the total, so you would divide by the percent. Okay, so this would be those two problems. Again, I'm trying not to go too fast, so that's why I'm pausing. Okay, now 4 is a little tricky because there's two things going on, right? When you go to the store and let's say you have a discount card, you get 10% off, or in this case, 20% off. So you got this discount card and you're getting 20% off. So that will mean that you're going to pay less than $129. Okay, so we got to find out the decrease and then subtract from 129. Then we got to pay tax. And so we got to find out what 6% is and then add that. So we got a couple things going on here. All right. So first we want to find the amount of discount. How much less are we going to pay? We'll get a new number and then we'll figure out how much more we're going to add. Okay, based on 6%. Okay, so then for number 4 here, we're going to take 129 and we're going to subtract the amount of the discount that was based upon 20%. So this is the amount that we're going to subtract. So notice we're still using the same thing here, but this is a two-part process. Once we get the amount of the discount, we got to actually subtract. All right. So again, we've got to understand what we're doing here, because if we're just doing procedures, we're going to get the wrong number. Okay, and that can be a little tricky, even if it's just multiplying and subtracting or multiplying and adding. Okay, so then when you do that, you would get this number, whatever that number is, and I'll just say N, and then that is what you're going to pay tax on. So whatever that is when you get this number, that's what you're going to increase by 6% of that number. Right? So this would be the amount of that number that you get from the first part. That's the tax that you're going to add to that number, and that's what you have to pay. Okay, and then here you can get the total number of questions, and you got 8, so you'll have 8 out of that total, and you get this percent. Now you could also divide and move the decimal point, where you can set up this proportion. So number 7 is a little easier. Okay, now number 8 here, the tricky part here is to understand what to do here, because it doesn't tell you, it just gives you a couple sentences. All right, so in other words, they want 740 students, but if they admit 740 students, 45% of them aren't going to show up, so they'll have less than 740. That's not what they want happen. They want to admit more students than 740 so that when the 45% leave, what they have left is 740. So this is the amount of students they want. We're looking for the total that they're going to admit. Okay, so again, notice it's the same little format. The amount is the percent of the total. So we want 740. So we're going to have to find the total we're going to admit so that the amount is 45% of the total. So this is where you divide. But again, that's the thing you can set up. Well, I put 8, that's 6. All right, so what am I? Oh, that is 8. Sorry, y'all, it's really small print. It's uncomfortable when you need my glasses because I have to do this because they're bifocals. All right, and again, notice this is the same kind of problem. This is the amount, and you're looking for the total, the actual height. Okay, and then 7, it's telling you that both the 4 and the 9 increased to 140% of the original size. And then it's asking you in the second question, well, what's the perimeter of that? Okay, so to model this problem, we'll just go ahead and make a little drawing. And we want to increase this to 140% of. Well, that means we're going to multiply 1.4. And when we do that, we get the new sides, and then we'll add all the sides to get the perimeter. Okay. So you got 2 of these and 2 of those, and that'll get you the answer. All right, so this is just calculating area and setting up this. So you want to find the amount of area from the windows and divide that by the total area and that'll get you the percent. Okay. So 8 times 15 is the total. 3 times 4 for each window, and then you got 3 of them. So you're going to have the 3 times the 3 times 4 over the 8 times the 15. And then you can just divide and move the decimal. You can set up this problem and use the cross multiplication proportion thing. Okay, so the last two. Now the 11th one, I think, was probably one of the less demanding problems. And so 15 over 36, 12 over 27, right? And then you can do this setup again, where you can divide and move the decimal point, and you're just picking which one is bigger. And if you know anything about basketball, this would be the field goal percentage. And in basketball, field goal percentage more than 50% is really good. Most players around 45, 44%. All right, now 10 might be hard even if you know what you're doing here, because this is something you might not be familiar with. Now, when we looked at percentages, I'm not sure if we did simple interest. I usually do, but I might have thrown it out because, you know, it's kind of tough to do everything in the Zoom thing. So basically, we want the amount that we're going to get every year for interest, and then we're going to multiply by 5. Okay, and that'll give us A. And then B, we're going to add what we get for A to the $800 to see what we have. Okay, and that's called simple interest. So we got the 0.032 times the 800 times 5. And that would be A. Okay, and then you'd add that to 800 to get B. All right, so this would get you the part A. This is the interest. It's the interest you got by putting that amount, original value, into 800.